start talking about tonight is
Yes.
we spoke many, many, many times about the idea of the US government going in and telling the major websites that you can't discriminate against the Conservatives.
Yes.
And I've always, and this is true, I've always been a bit shady on it.
Yeah. No.
You know?
I've. If anything, I've been having to sort of try and convince you of like, well, shit needs to happen.
I've
It's not
always
gonna be
been
perfect.
concerned because I'm a firm believer in the long slippery slope theory with many things like this. So documents were leaked that the Trump administration is drafting an executive order
Yes.
which will literally put the FTC and FCC in control of freedom of speech on the internet. Now, that's what this will do. Because free speech advocates from both the left and the right have just suddenly all gone up and gone, oh, no, no, no. Why did no one see this coming? Ajit Pai, the head of the FCC, hates the internet, the free, open platform that the internet is, hence the attacks on net neutrality, hence people who are perhaps Republican or conservative buying into this idea that it's a terrible thing because they've been sold it as, like, well, if you agree with it, you're a Democrat and a communist and all these things. When in fact, net neutrality is just a way of ensuring the internet remains free of all interference, including government interference. It doesn't give the government a way in.
We all know your socialist propaganda about.
Yeah, well, let's not get tired because this shit's important, dude, because we won't be allowed to do this shit anymore. We've already had a video banned where I was having a go at Nazis.
Yeah, which we need to get on the front page of triggerwarning.tv ASAP, actually.
Young Alex has clipped it out for me.
Beautiful.
And so I should be able to grab that later on.
He's a good lad, isn't he? He's a good lad.
I was chatting to him about vaping before, so that was cool. I passed a good solid half hour, so that was good. He is a good lad. Top young gentleman.
Yeah, no, he is. He's a big help. I'm constantly. I don't want to keep thanking him, but I do send him like DMs going, "Thank you so much. You've no idea."
Oh, I don't want to spoil him. Now, I just can't believe Ajit Pai is going to be in charge of monitoring and policing online speech on social media platforms, online forums, and more. As I don't want to sound like mystic fucking Meg here, but they're not stopping at Twitter and Facebook. People are saying, well, if they're only looking out for our interests, that's fine. It would give bureaucratic government agencies unprecedented control over how internet platforms moderate speech by allowing them to revoke the essential protections Congress laid out in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. CDA 230 is the basic law that makes it possible for online platforms to let users post their own content and to make basic decisions about what types of content they, as private entities, want to host.
Okay. So that's for me. That seems like it's gone to the wrong department, but at least they're still going in the right direction.
No, they're not going in the right direction at all. This is the problem. Because
the 230 protection, that's the whole point.
No, they're getting rid of that. This overrides it. The 230 protection's important because it means on trigger warning, we have control over what we show and what we want to say.
I get what you're saying.
Well, if you get what I'm saying, you realise that even if Trump's government and Ajit Pai don't do something, this leaves the door wide open for massive abuse down the line. And it's an executive fucking order that will be a nightmare to overturn. Kimberly, thank you for subscribing. Thank you very much. So if the government doesn't like the way now I really want you to think about this. If it's going in the right direction, think about this phrase. If the government, not Donald Trump,
no, I understand.
The government doesn't like the way a private company is moderating content, they can shut the entire website down. If they don't like the fact that you have a pro-Republican website, let's say, where you want to only chat with other conservatives. If a Democrat government gets in, they can. Theoretically, this leaves it wide open to say, it's a bit naughty, that.
There is, because I'm not worried about this government in terms of that. But in 6 years' time, it could be.
I'd worry about this government. I'd worry a lot about Ajit Pai. I'd really, really fucking worry about Ajit Pai. The man was a shill for the telecom corporations.
I agree with
And
you.
now he's in charge of the FCC. He's made it blatantly clear he does not want an open, free internet.
Mm.
Trump's going to sign it because he'll be like, yeah, this is great. Well, conservatives can have, the same rights on Twitter. But Ajit Pai's going to be in fucking control. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Anybody that says this is going in the right direction, this is exactly what I was complaining about, because everyone only sees the benefit that suits them. They never look at it.
It's both at once, though, isn't it? Because it definitely is. I mean, in terms of, this, it'll be challenged, it'll be nuanced and all right, but it something needs to be done about the 230 thing, because Google right now are interfering with elections. People hammer on about Brexit.
But here's the thing, Graham.
What?
Is that worth taking this entire thing out, or could we do with some more nuanced legislation?
Yeah, of course we need nuances.
We were never going to get it, because what do they want out of this? Control. And I'm telling you, that's what it is. It's control. It's what I was concerned about all the time. And we're going to hand it them on the plate, and people are going to cheer it because it means fucking Alex Jones will be able to post on Twitter again. Woo, great. That was worth every ounce of freedom you've all just lost. And every American that tells me the UK's fucked, it could never happen here. Of course the UK's fucked for freedom of speech, but it's going to happen there. And you're going to swallow it, because chances are it might be your team that bring it in. And they always give you a nice story for censorship like this. People throw shit at me for LiveLeak. LiveLeak's irrelevant. You can go anywhere else. Okay? That's got a whole realm of fucking issues that people simplify to, Hayden just wants to ban everybody, as if it's all up to me. It's irrelevant. Don't talk about a website. Think about the internet. Think about the internet.
Yeah,
and now people on Capitol Hill are going to tell you what's acceptable on the internet. And I don't trust the FCC, because lobbyists will be in there like nobody's business.
Yeah, of course they will. Of course they will. But what do we do? To me, this definitely still feels like a step in the right direction. A lot of no. Hear me out. Because everything you've just said about controls and government decided, that already exists. We already have that right now. So there needs to be something. There needs to be some sort of process.
How do the government control the content on the internet?
Because they're already in bed with all the companies. They already give them tax breaks. But the problem is, it's already done via the back door. It's already done
So why do we need this?
Mates and lobbying and that. So it's out and open. There needs to be.
Oh, so they can reach out to everyone that they're not in bed with.
Hayden, you can't not let me finish my point, and then take the mick out of it. The point is, there needs to be something on the books. I don't think this is right. I don't think this should be the end goal, but surely this is the step towards the end goal.
Oh, it's towards an end goal.
Legal protection.
But what you've just said to me is all the big companies are already in bed with the government.
Yeah, 100%.
So the government are saying we need to do this to get the big companies under control. But they're already in bed with them. So the government are already getting what they want, but they need this to get them under control, even though they're already in bed with the big companies. So what's the benefit of it? If the government already have control, why do they need this?
The law no. It's not about the government having control. I don't agree with the FCC, and I don't think that should be the end goal. But there needs to be something. There needs to be an attack on 230.
I agree. I don't think there needs to be an attack on. I think there needs to be an attack on how these things are put together. It needs a nuanced legislation. The problem I saw right from the beginning is everyone was going to fall over themselves, and I get it. I even started to cave a little myself, saying things need to be done about the big guys. But the problem with a step in the right direction is there's steps and there's massive fucking leaps.
No, but you're just falling for the same shit that everyone always falls for with Trump. This isn't even a thing that's come in yet.
This isn't even Trump.
If this is a leaked executive order, he's just playing the media and seeing how people react. It's the same way that he put out a thing saying people registering whatever. This hasn't happened yet. You might as well get your knickers in a twist about Trump's tweets. They don't mean anything.
Okay, it's a draft order, a draft executive order from the White House.
Yeah,
which will put the FCC in charge of shaping how Facebook, Twitter, and other large tech companies curate what appears on their websites. This is the sanitized version, but in fact, it's all websites.
I get that.
It calls for the FCC to develop new regulations. So he's not going, here's my executive order. I'm just testing how it goes. This is a carefully worked out one. This isn't just a broad stroke shit here. This isn't like some of the others we've seen of, the big broad strokes to see what happens. This has been worked on that they're going to have to clarify when the law protects social media websites when they decide to remove or suppress content on their platforms. It's still subject to change. It calls for the Federal Trade Commission to take those new policies into account when it investigates or files lawsuits against misbehaving companies. Whichever way we slice this, what we've done, like I say, it's not that we've taken a small step. If this is where they want to go, and remember, we're debating this as if this is a thing. Okay, like all government shit, it can change, but we're debating a thing. That's why it's enjoyable. But straight away, they've gone to the most obvious thing of we're going to put the FCC in control of more of the internet. And I don't think, without being conspiratorial, I don't think I need a tinfoil hat when I say that what any government would love, not Trump. Let's get off the Trump thing, because I don't think this is a orange man bad scenario. I believe anyone in that seat would be trying to do this right now, because it's a golden opportunity. Maybe not a Democrat if it was Republicans being censored, but vice versa. Anyone in that position would do this because it's a mechanism of government that they want control. The UK government has fallen over itself for years trying to get a grip on the internet. Luckily for us, they're far more inept than the Americans. Far more inept. Our big plan is to let the BBFC control porn online, which keeps getting put back because they're just useless.
But the difference with the way it works with America, the only difference and the only reason that I've got hope in terms of this politicking right now is they cannot pass laws that restrict people's speech. They cannot. They are.
Oh no, that's a good thing. This isn't what this does.
They're not allowed to do that.
That isn't what this does.
Yeah.
That's the clever thing about it. It's not saying I'm restricting your speech by taking away your website. It's saying we don't like how you operate. We don't think that's fair. You're shut down. Which to me there is a problem. Yes, we keep focusing on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, we keep focusing on because that's the elephant in the room. But what about the freedoms people should have to have a website they want? To say it's Republicans only, Democrats only, I don't know, fucking black people only, white people, whatever the fuck you want. You should be able to have that. Now, for them to say you can't have that would be restricting your freedoms. But what a wonderful way of saying, oh no, that's not how it works. You've got to be inclusive. Doesn't matter if, let's say, a Democrat never wanted to be on your platform. It only takes one. And you know as well as I do, there's some prick out there desperate to get you in this shit no matter what.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It can be. But right now, even that would be a step up and a step better than what we've got right now. Because what we've got right now is people who are very much, at the moment, like far, far left, who are in absolute control of the media, who, if they decided today to destroy me and you, would do. Instantly. It wouldn't be a problem. They wouldn't, we'd just be gone.
Well, I think they've gone about this wrong. I think they've gone about this completely wrong.
I mean, I don't know, because I've not read the bill in its entirety. I've not read the thing in its entirety, but even this, to me, just feels like it's shit. But it's one of them where it's like, at least it's just a little bit more out in the open.
And what if it just destroys everything? What wouldn't have been a better idea? Someone's just mentioned there. Arminius Calgagus. Calgasus? I have no idea. But hello, Arminius. I'm Chappie. Hello, I don't think I've said hello to you tonight. The legal argument is publisher versus platform. Now, I think that would have been a far better thing because we all know that Facebook and Twitter are no longer platforms. They're publishers.
That's the issue.
That's what should have been focused on. I could have got behind that 1,000%, force them to be platforms, force them to not discriminate based on politics. They can have rules. You can still ban people. You can still do all the things you want to do, but you have to not discriminate based on these sort of things. Yet it's clear that Facebook and Twitter do give left-leaning messages more amplification. We know that from mentions, from content, from users. This is what happens.
And from data, the data shows it as
Yeah,
well.
so why not focus on that? I know exactly why not to focus on that. It's not far-reaching enough. It's not far-reaching enough, and there'd be a bigger legal battle. So why not just go to grab the lot? Because if you're going to, why not? Control it all. Fuck them. And they can't argue this one legally as easily. But in my mind, the fight should have been, you are a publisher. You are not a platform.
No,
because
it's
being a
all about
platform,
230.
being a platform is really fucking hard. It's really, really fucking hard to remain an impartial platform. It takes a concerted, fucking deathly effort because none of us are impartial as individuals.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
That.
And as groups, you have to work at it. You have to work very, very fucking hard. And because you won't pick a side, it's harder to monetize. It's harder to gain traction. All of these things that we occasionally find with trigger warning as well, because we're not the darling of either side. So I do believe there should have been more focus there because it's too easy to become a publisher and hide behind being a platform, which is exactly what Twitter have done because they've never cared about either, and nor Facebook. It's all about the data. Zuckerberg even said it himself when he was developing Facebook. Look at all the data these idiots are giving me. They don't care about it. They're not passionate. They don't give a shit.
The interesting thing is something else that really needs to be addressed, and you'll see this a lot, like the Sam Cedar types. So Arminius there said about publisher versus platform, and the other side of the debate for some people who it's because it's far left people, and obviously it favors them. So at the moment they're finding the argument to back it up, and they quite rightly point out that Section 230 doesn't actually specifically state the whole publisher versus platform argument. It doesn't. It's not specific enough about that exact thing. But to me, that's the problem. Do you know what I mean? That needs clarifying. 100%.
That's where we should have been focused. Well, I say we. It's got nothing to do with me or you, has it?
No,
really?
No.
We're not American citizens, but It does. It concerns me greatly where all this is going. Because over the years I've seen many attempts to silence sites and silence hosts, and Lord knows I've been in the middle of it myself more than once, and it just smells like that to me. It's just an excuse. It's a power grab, and I'm incredibly wary. I'd rather be paranoid and wrong, because if I'm wrong about all this, I'll happily hold my hands up and go, do you know what? It was a great fucking idea. I got it wrong.
Well, the other thing is if this actually shits up the companies enough to, because that's the other thing. Why is it leaked? Why would it leak other than to? Because he just fucking does these things. Do you know what I mean? He just puts it out there. He's obviously leaked it for a reason. And my thought is it is to shit up the companies because there's already like so much data coming out now. So many ex-Google employees coming out specifically saying we've had the leaked emails saying we are going to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get elected. And it's one of them at the moment where, obviously he's going to be doing it for selfish reasons. I don't think entirely. I don't think he invited the likes of Tim Pool to the White House for purely selfish reasons. I do think that it is there, but I think that at the moment Trump and the team and all that, the White House, have actually identified a genuine problem here that is actually bipartisan as well. There's a lot of Democrats that don't like this shit.
There's a lot of Democrats that have signed up to this to support this executive order anyway. Just looking there, Vega Navarra rightly comes in with there's been a lot of talk in the US about updating and upholding the fairness doctrine from the 50s and 60s, which was a rule that forced radio stations to conduct discussion fairly. Apparently it came about after broadcasters gave airtime to one side of arguments, much like left-leaning media does today. The goal was this: if a show wanted to debate something, they had to have people on from all sides. Thanks for that, Vega Navarra. We see that a lot here in the UK. The BBC are often criticised heavily for giving airtime to Nigel Farage. But what else can they do to give balance? You can't have Owen Jones on every fucking week.
No. And as I pointed out in the video the other day, that, if you're going to have actual communists on, then at that point, you can have Farage isn't right wing enough. to balance out an actual communist, you know. So,
But this is how we've ended up with this, isn't it? Like
yeah,
Fox, CNN. It's not about giving you news or having fair debates. It's about keeping you watching so they can show you adverts. We know that. They're just
yeah,
commercial news stations which are product, 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 product. That's why journalism is in decline. Not because people don't want to be journalists. They definitely do. But because there's no market for that now. Just wake up, find an outrage on Twitter, bubble that up a little bit, support your team on the show, and away you go. Away you go. It's all changed. Everything's changed from the ideas they had in the 40s, 50s, 60s with
Well,
news.
the thing is, then news then wasn't profitable. It was a legal requirement. So if you had
Yes.
a license, you had to have a certain amount of news, and it was straight information. The way they got around it, and you know, and I hate news. I hate news for this. Is comment sections, editorials aren't subject to quite as strict rules. No, nowhere near as strict rules actually. As long as you're not like out and out, you know, inciting, defaming directly, even then it's a balancing act. Now, what annoys me about news, especially in the American media, but we fall into it here as well, is they will use all the conventions of standard news and present comment, but it looks like news. Tucker Carlson is a phenomenal example, although I think he's far from the worst, but you know, he's presenting news, he's presenting comment, but it looks like
Yeah.
news.
It's
If
a
you just watch
monologue.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
monologue.
And CNN, they all do it. They all do it. And in fact, CNN is definitely my worst for it because they will do it where they've got like fucking 6 people
Oh
all
yeah,
in
a panel.
squares.
A panel doing a monologue,
So
yes.
if you don't give it any thought as you're watching it, you just take it as being experts who are providing information, which they are usually connected to it in some way, or they're just connected to the station. But it is comment, it is editorials, it is opinion, and therefore protected under free speech. They don't necessarily need the balance thing, even though they try and do it. Sidewalk Close has just joined us saying independent journalism is on the rise, trying to get the real truth. And it's true. And actually, I can be hopeful about this. Tim Pool, the guy I mentioned before, phenomenal channel, puts a lot of his profits into funding Subverse, which I gave a shout out for. But he beats CNN very regularly. In terms of his numbers, he's getting up there with Fox.
I remember telling someone at MSNBC when they were a little bit snippy with me that LiveLeak had better viewing figures than them. They didn't like that. Here's the thing, though. I'm gonna come over all Yoda like here, so forgive me, but I'm gonna preach, brother. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, you're in that mood tonight, aren't you? Take advantage of my tiredness.
I think you might get behind this one. We're all screaming, people scream about, we want freedom on the internet, and they're focused on things like gory videos, being able to use racial slurs and all this. Do you know what? That's not what we should be fighting for. We should be fighting for something important. We should be fighting for citizen journalism, citizen commentary. Because remember, most independent news, what people call the alternative news, is actually just commentary on the mainstream media.
Yeah,
we can't exist without the mainstream media. That's a fact. So everyone dreams about it going away. Really? Do you really want David Icke telling you your news every day? Just, shit he's found out himself? I wouldn't. The Natural News Network, do you want those guys telling you? No, of course you don't. But we should be looking at ways of protecting citizen journalism or citizen opinion. That's what we should be hearing more of. Both the people that research deeply, like, your Tim Pools and guys like that, who still have their bias, but the good thing is a person can have it.
Yeah, of course.
It's just commentary. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah. As long as you're honest about it.
Yeah, that's 100%. I'm right there. This is what we should be focusing on. People having their space to have their say without fear of not being the right thing. Like YouTube now, if you're politics, you won't get the traffic and you won't get the traction. So stop worrying about those things. You're never going to make a living off it anyway. Give it up. That's gone. That shit is gone. Because YouTube had an unsustainable model to corner the market, as you well know. So let's focus on doing this. Let's focus our efforts on protecting opinions, not the ability to do outrageous shit, because you can always do that somewhere. Don't try and think we should be allowed to do it everywhere. No, of course we fucking shouldn't. And when people tell me they're totally anti-censorship, I ask them, really? How many child porn sites do you think should be allowed?
Yeah, there's a weird thing there, isn't it? Because it's that thing. I was thinking about this today. There's this sort of some people get it from religion or whatever. We here we don't talk about it as much these days. But this, oh well, I'm British. I've been watching Bottom recently, and it's constantly saying, well, of course not. We're British. We do, but there's that weird social fabric, and there is a duality there. There's two things happening at once in that, you should be free as much as possible to do anything you want whilst having the decency to not swear around young children.
Yeah.
There's the two things need to somehow exist at once.
People really have trouble telling the difference between can and should. It's like the guy that walks down the middle of the street with his AR-15 on his back because he can. Should you?
Well,
really? What's the point? What point are you making? I can. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
The argument for should is they call it a Second Amendment audit. So they'll whatever state they're in. No, and I'm not saying this is all people that just always do it, but it happens quite a lot where they will wear or they'll be brandishing in an entirely legal manner. Everything will be 100% legal, and the test is, and it's usually if you see a video of it, the test is, do they get stopped?
Wonderful.
And the point is, I am not breaking the law. Everything I'm doing right now is completely legal in terms of so that's how it's an audit. They do the same thing with the First Amendment.
But to be fair, even with the Second Amendment, is it not reasonable for a police officer to say, hello, mate, no offence. I realise it's within your rights to do so, but is there a particular reason you're walking down the street with that? But you see, what these people are really doing, let's be honest, it's the same as the guys that drive around looking for them border checks and then getting a big argument with them about their rights and I'm a person of the land and all that shit. They just want an argument.
Yeah.
The rights are enshrined. And should you really need to go down the street with an AR-15? Should civilization have crumbled to the point where that is an absolute requirement? The police aren't going to stop you because they'll be doing the same thing. It's all bollocks. I don't buy any of that bullshit. I don't buy any of it. We must test the laws every time. They're there. It's written down, dude. If a policeman stops you, he's concerned because most people that walk down the street with a loaded semi-automatic rifle are not necessarily just checking their Second Amendment rights.
Well, that's part of the check, isn't it? That's part of the check. And there is that thing of, that's part of the audit, because if you were to do that in a Walmart, even though it was entirely legal in some states to do that, they'd quite rightly track you because you were on the money with this last week when you said we need to just ban Walmart. So far, 8 of them have been targeted since you said that.
Walmart's the problem. Walmart seems to incense people.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the kind of person that might do one of these Second Amendment audits might go to a Walmart specifically, but you also, this is what I'm saying about there's the freedom, and then it has to work in duality with decency and common sense. To be upset that a police officer stops you on the way into a Walmart right now whilst you're geared up would be kind of ridiculous. Yes, strictly speaking, nothing should come of that, but it all depends on what happens. If the officer comes up to you with a gun saying don't move and all that shit, then that's crossing the line. But if the officer comes over and says, you do realise there's been several shootings in Walmarts recently and there's a lot of tensions and stuff, is there any chance, if you're going to do this again, you could give us a warning? The same way that I am completely legally allowed to film on the street, apart from London. But as a filmmaker, well, they changed the rules in London, didn't they?
Yes.
After the thing. But I'm completely legally allowed to film on the street. It's funny when people tell me I'm not. It's like, yeah, I am. But if I'm using guns, fake guns, which I have done. I've done zombie movies and we've had big rifles and all sorts and blood. I don't legally have to, but I would be an absolute fool to not let the police know I was going to be exercising my legal rights. Do you know what I mean? Like, although last time I did that, the phone just rang off the hook. It just rang and rang. Nobody answered. and a police car actually went past us. We had a bag on someone's head, on their knees, and someone had a gun to the back of their head and they were screaming. And the police car just went straight past.
Oh, yeah, he didn't want any of that.
No. We'll find out about that once it calms down a little bit.
We'll hear about that on the news. There's no sense getting involved with that kind of shenanigans.
Yeah, but it's that thing, isn't it? It's like there's a decency there. I mean, there might even be a legal requirement for me to ring. I don't know because I've always just done it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, when I said can and should, it doesn't mean you shouldn't. It means you should be mature enough and reasonable enough to understand why it might not be appropriate to do a thing. It might not be the most reasonable thing. Yes, I can do this, but you know what? I'm not going to because it just gets everyone's fucking back up, and what's the point? But we know that society's always been that way, and now it's worse than ever. Getting someone's back up is the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works.
It's such a hard thing to balance. It really is. Like, because if you know El Paso, if you turned up now and you're perfectly allowed to turn up with a gun at the exact location where there was a shooting, you're gonna get in trouble for that because obviously you're going right to there, and there's definitely going to be, you know, I don't know what the wording is in America, but there's definitely going to be a public order issue there.
There's going to be a kerfuffle.
Yeah. So then there's the question of, well, how far away from the shooting area does your Second Amendment rights kick back in again? Do you know what I mean? And there's always going to be a grey area, always, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of.
That's what we're supposed to work through, isn't it? That's where being an adult comes in, and being reasonable and using things like compromise, which isn't the same as surrender. Sadly, it's been seen to. But we should move on because we've got lots and lots of things to talk about, haven't we?